Going live here. Hi, everybody. If I said you were a goddess, would you believe me? Or would you think that I'm either crazy or that I don't know you at all, which I don't know all of you, of course. Or would you think that maybe there's some grain of truth in what I say? First, you have to understand what a goddess is and what a goddess isn't. And I do not mean a domestic goddess. I do not mean a goddess in the boardroom or something like that. That just implies what you're really good at in the world. What I mean is something within you, the spark of the divine within you, a true goddess. You may not believe that you're a goddess right now. Many people don't. But when you look at a little baby, you can see so clearly what that baby is. You can see that that baby is so divine. It's got a magic about it. And maybe you've seen laughing babies, and it's like with a laughing baby, they with every ha 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 they do, they kind of emit a wave of joy that goes far and wide. It's amazing the amount of joy and the amount of divine nature you can see within a baby. Now, when we come here, when we're first born onto the planet, then we all have that spark of the divine within us, each and every one of us. But what happens? Well, you're a kid and you grow up and your mom corrects you when you do something wrong, your dad corrects you, maybe somebody's mean to you. Things happen in your life. Now, when things happen, they create just stresses all over the system, little wounds all over the system. And it kind of flakes off and becomes part of you. There's a lot of debris that kind of drifts down every time something happens. Maybe, say, a friend of yours in kindergarten says, I don't want you for my best friend anymore. I want this other person for a best friend. And that's a huge wound in the heart. And there's more debris that comes and covers this great, wonderful, divine inner light within you. How many times has something like that happened? I know in my life, day after day, people say and do things that either I don't like or that hurt me in some way. And this has happened through the years. If you're a mom, you know that your kid is going to say some things that are very hurtful to you here and there, just in the part of growing up. Things like, oh, you're mean, or I don't like you anymore, and all that kind of stuff. You know that. And you know they don't mean it, but it has its own effect. And more of that debris just comes to, excuse me, to cover and cover and cover the light of who you truly are. So when we're babies, we can see clearly, or other people can see clearly in us, what we are and how amazing and wonderful we are. But when we get bigger, more things happen that make us begin to doubt our own sense of self, our sense of fearlessness, our sense of the amazing being that we are. Now, no kid is going to say I'm an amazing being, but they're going to be out there with everything that they are. They don't have many filters at all. And those of us who have grown up and gone on to different things in our lives, we put up filters. And the filters add to all of the junk that's piled up high and deep within us, covering our amazing, wonderful life. And it's usually not that our light dims. That can happen, but not for the kind of reasons that I'm talking about here. It's that it's covered up. It's covered up higher and higher and higher. And when we look at ourselves at that point, we don't see the inner light shining within us. What we see is all the debris, all of the junk that has been there. And our sense of self looks out from amid all this junk, and it colors our perception of ourselves and ourselves in the world. Things are not as pure and simple as they used to be, and we complicate things still further. If someone tells us we are not worthy of having some wonderful thing in your life, you're going to start to believe them. If a couple people tell you that, the belief gets more and more and more. And eventually you will think you're not worthy of being loved, not worthy of wealth, or not worthy of whatever it is that you're thinking of that you want. It's not true, but it's our perception. We're perceiving the junk. When I was in my marriage, I had a family of my husband and 2 sons. At one point, someone had to tell me that I had some healing ability. I had no idea about that. I was completely clueless. My ex-husband had some healing gifts, as it turned out. And when it came to energetic healing, I left everything to him. I had always dabbled and learned about herbals and homeopathics and things like that. But when it came to energy healing and being able to heal from what was within me, I again was clueless. But he told me, this friend told me that I had a healing touch power, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because there are little mini chakras in each of our fingertips. And there's a mini chakra right in the center of our palms. So that had been enlivened and awakened within me so I could use my healing touch on other people once I found out that I actually had that. And that's also a good way for a lot of people to start, because everyone has that innate healing touch ability within them. You may realize that there is some talent or affinity that you have within you. You may have been drawn to something early on. I know when I was a kid, what I wanted to do more than anything was to write. I wanted to be an author. And I spoke of it in those terms. I want to be an author, not a writer, but an author. And I wanted to write books. I was a huge reader in those days, and I loved books about horses and about dogs and and of course, the old Nancy Drew mysteries and things like that. But what I wanted to do was to write books. And my first book I wrote was called Buster. And it was about a dog that looked surprisingly like Lassie. It was my earliest effort. And of course, it just helped me to grow as a writer. But I had a natural affinity for that. And of course, other things came in later that were a higher priority for me to do. But that desire to write and be an author was always there. And I, of course, wrote my book, How Let Your Goddess Shine Through. That's available on Amazon. Later, sometimes we know from the start what kind of thing it is that sparks us, that makes us want to pursue that passion. And sometimes we don't have a clue. And I didn't have a clue about my healing ability. Some people, when they are younger, have particular perceptions, and that can lead very easily into healing work. And that wasn't my case. And the reason that you don't always know what you want to do, what you're supposed to do in life, is because you are looking at yourself through this big pile of debris, through this big pile of junk that has been piled up on top of you. There are ways to clear the junk. And I'll tell you about that in just a moment. So if you're not seeing yourself clearly, which almost all of us are not, even if we see ourselves mostly clearly, most of us are not seeing ourselves perfectly clearly. There are other reasons besides that, all the debris that has been piled up that alters and distorts your perception. And it can also be that our perception is always turned outward. I can't believe I did that. I didn't put my earphones in when I started the live. I have no idea if any of this will come out. If it doesn't, I will do it again. I'll just continue from where I am and hope for the best on this. If your perception is always outward, and all of our perception is outward, we look outward, we see outward, everything we do, all the people that we associate with are outside of ourselves, at least so we think, and we look out. Very few of us actually turn within to explore what's going on inside. And if you do, if you already do turn within to explore what's going on inside, then you are ahead of the game. During the pandemic, those of us who had already learned to turn within and to feel at home with ourselves had an easier time than all those people who had their attention turned to the outside, because we were stuck in our homes and we could not go out to other people. That's why some people went crazy during the pandemic. But there is something that you can do if you do not have a clear, accurate perception of yourself. If you have all of this junk, this debris piled up on top of your inner goddess light, there are things that you can do. And I'm going to tell you about just a few of them right now. The first thing I recommend is to meditate. I have my favorite kind of meditation, transcendental meditation. I've been doing that for more than 5 decades with great results. Any kind of meditation is going to be somewhat helpful. Different meditations are good for different things. So choose one that helps you to be able to go within and to get to know the true nature of who you are. And with transcendental meditation, it takes you within very directly and in a very systematic way so that you can repeat the process. I also recommend doing things like yoga, which is it's similar to meditation in that it's one of the 8 branches. Meditation is one of the 8 branches of yoga, but it's the yoga I'm talking about is the physical yoga, the hatha yoga, the exercises that you do, the yoga asanas that you can do. When done properly, that helps you settle the system and helps align you more to nature. And Tai Chi is also another fantastic system that helps you to settle the system and to grow more in harmony with yourself. You can also work with me. This is what I focus on, helping especially women 50 and over, to be able to learn to know themselves, to be able to go within and learn who they are. And we do this partly by releasing these blocks that are standing in your way, and through other things that I do when I have sessions. And your first step, if you are interested, is easy. Go to my website, divinehealingenergies.com. On the right-hand side of the website, the right-hand column, you'll find a place where you can sign up for a free 15 or 20-minute session where we can talk. I can get to know you, you can get to know me, we can discover if we might be a fit to help you progress further in this direction. I would love to have you come and be a part of what we do. My website is woefully out of date. It doesn't mention anything about my ageless goddess system or any of the other work I've been doing, but the gist of it is absolutely still spot on, that I help people connect to their inner goddess. I look forward to seeing more of you. Take care.